Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Livin Room Podcast without the G. I am your host for today's episode, Jason, and I'm joined with the boys, Dom and Bryan. And we have our first official guest for this episode for 2025. He is one half of the Double D duo, and his name is also a day of the week. His name is Mingo. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Welcome. My other half of the Double D.
And the other half is Dom.
Two Doms.
So we'll call him Mingo for this podcast episode to make it easier.
Just not confuse us.
Just like, Dom, yes. Well, there's
Doms. Which one? Huh?
You have two Doms, right?
Yeah. So,
Hell yeah.
But yeah, welcome on.
Thank you.
Huge honor to be the first guest for 2025.
I do.
Yeah.
I feel that's why I dressed up.
you're so fancy.
At least from the waist up. That's good.
Very dapper. Very dapper.
Right.
So on the camera, you actually don't see these. He's actually in his boxers right now. I'm just joking.
Gotta subscribe to Patreon for that one.
We had to angle it just right to not get canceled.
Yeah. And the boxers and a very cold chair.
Yeah. So that's
all
on the
right.
budget
It's
for 2025 as of now. We'll see.
We'll get heated chairs.
We'll heated chairs. It's progress. You know?
No, thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to be here.
We're glad to have you.
I asked,
Got to set the bar pretty high, though. You know,
Right,
future
right.
guests
I
for the
hope so.
year. You know, after
I have high hopes.
be in your shadow. You know, hopefully.
bring in at least 2 viewers more. It's gonna be.
Hey,
it's gonna
And
be
man,
all right.
any progress is good progress.
Progress, right?
Yeah, and when I talked to Dom about it,
Yeah.
you know, I was jokingly saying, "Hey, maybe you can have me on," and he's like, "Yes."
Yeah, I was like, sure, why not?
I said,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, put me on the waiting list and let me know what month I can come in at." And then he's like, "Well, how about next weekend?" so here we are.
Nice.
I was like, yeah,
But
why
yes,
not?
happy to be here. Happy to be your first guest of the year. I'm glad to do what I can to bring something positive to the round table or square table. Square table. It's okay.
For sure, because I mean, we were talking a lot off camera, and I feel like there's a lot of things we could work with on
Yeah.
upbringing, jobs you've had. So
Our schools.
Games,
movies, right?
hobbies. So I mean, I guess we could start from how. I guess we preface this like. Do you want to get into the nitty gritty of it all, or how do you want to
How
approach
deep
this?
do you want to go?
Yeah.
Let's go down the rabbit hole, I suppose. I mean,
right.
we can go from the start.
start slow.
Yeah, go
I'll
from the
just-
start.
I'll
So-
just answer questions if you guys can remember the.
Yeah, I guess we'll
questions?
start from when your upbringing getting here, because you said that you came from Mexico and then eventually going to this whole schooling system. How
Mhm.
would that how that process was for you, especially going through that is not having English as your first language.
Right. Yeah. So now I have 3 languages. Right.
Oh,
I speak
okay.
English. With a bit of an accent.
I mean, it's
hope
very
so.
minimal. It's
Very
very
minimal.
minimal.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
guys
sounds
can't
good.
tell. Spanish was my first language.
I would expect
And,
that from Mexico.
I guess the last one I think I remember. Is it Portuguese?
Portuguese.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
He's
I think
not
that
a
was-
real double D if you didn't remember.
he would remember because I was starting to dig into the Portuguese
I
language
remember that.
back when we were in college.
Okay.
It really happened all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
We were in college and I was bored because we didn't have enough homework. No.
I actually took a Portuguese class in college.
I was
more.
bored and I'm like, well, maybe I can learn something new, right?
Mhm.
And I think, well, maybe a different language. Now that I feel more comfortable with English, I figured, well, let me pick up a different language. And I said, well, Italian is pretty close to Latin, is very close to Spanish. Let me try Italian. You know, I bought a CD, got all geared up.
Did you have
had
Rosetta Stone or something like that, or no?
Something like that,
Okay,
right?
okay.
There was other knockoff, like with the red CDs.
Falsetto Stone. Not 100% version.
got the CD, queued it up. I'm like, what the hell is this, right? I'm looking at the words. The words and the sound just did not match. And I'm
Right.
like, what is this?
Yeah.
Right? So I'm like, all right, well, I didn't want to give up. So I kept looking. And being that I am from a part of Mexico where it's very touristy,
Okay.
very touristy town, it always got hit with different vibes of different countries. Because you got people going from Canada, people going from Brazil, people going from Europe, the United States, right? That just like the people, the music traveled. And without me even noticing, I was always listening to music, a few songs in Portuguese.
Oh,
Right, you had singers, old singers like Roberto Carlos, and I don't know if you guys know the song, the forbidden song with the forbidden dance, La Lambada. Never heard of that?
No.
Completely fair. I was not expecting you
to know
to
it.
know
I've
it.
never heard
I'm
of
more Spanish than Portuguese.
But the Lambada was a huge hit,
Mhm.
Okay.
and it played over and over again, right? So grew up with that, growing up my whole life. Come to the United States, completely in the background, and went back to college. Right at a later age, I went back to college, and then I said, "Well, maybe Portuguese hits a tone, right?" And it did. I said, well, started all over, got geared up, got the headset going, got a CD,
There you
and
go.
I could understand some of the words. So
And have
Portuguese
you
is
been
another
keeping
one.
up with it now?
Yeah.
What would you say your level? Could you have natural or normal conversations with people, or what would you say your level?
I could hold a conversation, be
good.
proficient with
Nice.
it, but
Okay. And how is
don't
like,
ask me to write.
How's your
Don't-
reading and writing? Is reading
Reading is okay.
okay?
Writing is
I
not
think
there.
I think writing's probably the
That was the
toughest
hardest.
part of
Tough-
learning
toughest
any
part,
language.
because even in English you have to learn grammar, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
you, don't,
I
you
think
can't
English
even,
grammar is probably one of the worst.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
I was growing up trying to learn English and go to school at the same time, and I couldn't differentiate between the word three and three.
Tree, like tree.
Yes.
Oh, with the
Yeah,
H.
right.
Oh,
They all-
three.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
same word, bro.
The one with the leaves and the number. Right? For me, that was difficult.
Right.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
And so school was definitely a traumatic phase, right? I'm trying to do my homework and trying to do assignments. And really what it was, doing my assignments in school was writing everything down,
Yeah.
Mhm.
turning it in, getting it all back read.
Yeah, right.
Because the teachers would like
Mark it
scratch
up,
off,
yeah.
off the spelling errors, right?
Mhm.
And eventually, when I was trying to say tree or three, I would pay attention to
Which one?
which one she marked off, and that's how I figured out. Well, I wanted to say the number 3,
Mm-mm.
right? And I put 3 as
Yeah,
a,
without the H.
Without
the
Without the H.
and then, well, hey, now I know
He's like, oh,
which
yeah,
one
this
is the
one.
one that's spelled correctly.
Mhm.
Right. At the time that I came here, there was no classes for English, teaching
Yeah,
English,
ESL.
right?
ESL. Right.
ESL, and there's a misconception with ESL. It's English as a second language,
Mhm.
but they don't teach you the second language. They help you through. It's up to you. It's really up to you to put the work in. And
What do you mean, like they
There's
help
no
you through?
curriculum?
Oh, sorry.
like explain what the assignments were, explain the nuances of whatever assignment you're supposed to
Yeah.
turn in, right? But
Mhm.
not
They don't teach the language itself.
they're not saying this is
Oh.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right?
The
They're
alphabet,
not going
okay.
through that. They're not going through the words.
Okay.
They're
Oh,
not
they
going
don't teach you the fundamentals at all.
ESL, no.
Okay.
Right?
Oh,
they
wow.
have
That's
So
I
they
thought
throw
they
you in
did.
the fire, and you just have
And-
They just
to.
kind of guide you a little bit.
Yeah.
maybe now in times, maybe it's changed, right? I'm speaking from at the time I went to school,
Mhm.
a couple decades ago, right? When I would show up to school and there was only 6 kids that spoke Spanish in the whole school,
Yeah.
right? And this is back in the day.
Right.
So now it's completely different. It's definitely
Yeah,
a different,
immigration's huge now.
different, right? You walk into a town and you go order something at McDonald's and you better speak Spanish.
Right.
Well, you want fries? Okay. Right. So it's definitely different.
Yeah.
20, 30 years ago when I started. So
Right.
school was very difficult, very traumatic, right? When I was brought here, I did not know there was a different country, right? You're 10 years old, 9 years old, and you're not really aware
Of how big the world is.
of how big really
right.
it is, that there are different cultures, that there are different languages, right?
Right.
So
I have a question though. Did you,
Go
when
ahead.
you came here, did you move to a Mexican area?
technically, technically, yes. Crossing, we crossed when I was young into California.
Okay.
So at first it was okay because I had family there, right?
Mhm.
But we only stayed there a couple months and then moved here to Illinois.
What
where,
made you come to Illinois?
my parents.
Yeah.
So,
So what made them want to go to Illinois?
Yeah,
Because of
leave
work?
Cali.
it really is work, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Most people live in cold areas because of work. Because if you can, man, I would
I
say,
don't
right?
know, man.
If you
Or
can
they're just
live
crazy
somewhere,
like us. Like
if you can live somewhere
We're just
warmer,
born
somewhere
here
nicer,
crazy.
right? I mean, who does not want to live by
I feel
the
like it's
beach?
more competitive in like warm areas too, because everyone
It
wants
is.
to live there, and then
Right, even hobos. There's more hobos in warmer areas.
yeah,
because
that's
now
true.
they can sleep outside, right?
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, there's more competitive in warmer areas.
hmm
But that just speaks to the same thing I just said, was people would rather live somewhere warmer than somewhere colder,
yeah, no doubt.
yeah.
right?
Especially if you compare it to you coming from Mexico, and that's normally a warmer place closer to the equator,
Mhm.
and then going to California, it's like a 1-to-1 transition. But then you
Close,
go to
yeah.
Illinois,
And
and you have your
different.
winters. You're
And it's
different.
like, what do you mean it's
the
minus
heck is
20?
this?
Right? No, I mean, I remember the first.
What's this white stuff on
just
the
like,
ground?
wow.
Oh, forget the
It's
white
not,
stuff. It
it's
was
not the
Like the
forget that white stuff. It was the orange stuff that got me. I never seen orange trees.
Mm,
Oh, like
fall.
Pottle
Oh
Hill.
man, it's
Really?
beautiful, right?
Yeah, yeah.
To
I
me,
think-
that was
Never thought
new,
about that
right?
actually. Yeah.
The only thing that I saw hanging orange on trees were mangoes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But besides that, seeing the leaves turn and then seeing them completely bare,
Yeah.
right? That was
Really
shock.
different.
Yeah.
And then during that time, it snowed. So then you got red leaves on the ground.
Right.
You got
Yeah.
white snow. I'm like, oh my god!
He's like, what's going on?
Right.
the world's ending.
the sky's falling.
What was that movie that? No. Third Rock from the Sun. Anyone saw Third Rock from the Sun?
No,
Which
I'm
one?
not.
Rock from the sun.
Third Rock from the Sun was a TV
No.
show.
What's it about? Explain it.
Aliens living
Ooh.
in Earth and trying to figure out Earth.
So okay, that's a really good analogy.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
So,
really good.
That sounds pretty good, actually.
So there were different aliens, and they took on human form. Of course, one was the leader, and then you had the goofy guy. Of course, you know, the comedic accent. But anyways, the snow for them, for one, was thinking, "Oh my God, they're attacking us! They're little people attacking us!" Right? Yeah, everybody hide, right? Yeah.
Right.
So for me, it was not that huge of a shock, but to me it was because I kind of had an inkling about it.
Have you like seen it in movies and
Mhm.
as a kid? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right, didn't register the same.
Right.
Because the
right.
movies that I had remember seeing were like Rudolph the reindeer, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it was that fake snow. So it wasn't even real snow. I hadn't
Right.
even seen
Yeah.
real snow, right?
Right.
So-
let alone like animated and stuff like that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Was it colder than you expected?
You know what? I had no expectations, but I can say now, many years later, I'm still not used to it.
Oh, really?
Right. No, that's how I feel. Because like
Mhm.
when you're watching like Christmas like animations on TV, like snow looks really cool, and you think like it just looks snowy, but it doesn't feel that cold until you
yeah.
hit like -degree weather,
Right.
and then it's like yeah. I
let me
hate
ask you
so
this when
much.
she's done too.
Yeah.
What would you prefer? Would you prefer? Oh wow. Okay, I can speak. Would you prefer having snow or would you have it just cold?
If it's gonna be cold, might as well have the snow.
So you don't mind both? Because I know people that prefer it being snow, but they don't like it being cold. So there's
No,
the-
I think the snow is still beautiful, right?
right.
It coats everything nice and evenly colored, except by where the snow plows are going through, right? That's
Or where the dogs do their
Right. But other than
The yellow
that,
snow.
I'd rather see tree branches covered in snow because it looks absolutely beautiful, right? You
Yeah.
drive through some towns and they're covered in ice,
Mhm.
and it's nature's spectacle,
Oh yeah, no
right?
doubt.
And you can just like you want to go slow and you want to I used to snowplow for a while,
Okay.
and you know you're snowplowing into the early morning.
Mhm.
And you can see the sun just hitting the trees the right way. You know, you can see the beauty of nature. And I'm like, oh man, like, it needs to look like this.
Yeah.
Which versus it being bitterly cold
Mhm.
Mhm.
and everything looks just dreadful and dead.
So you
Right?
prefer
Yeah.
the snow?
I
over
would
it being
prefer
cold
the snow.
then. It sounds like
Short
that.
answer, yes.
I mean,
But that makes sense though.
Yeah.
I think snow is better than just raining like half the year. Because I think
Even the snow.
rain is depressing.
Well,
kinda-
Unless you guys disagree, I don't know.
No, you have the
but-
clouds.
I kind of
it's
like the
cloudy.
rain, but
Oh really?
Yeah.
Why is that? Because you'd be
So it's-
lazy?
yeah, it's kind of relaxing. But I still prefer the snow.
Yeah, because I
Well-
think if it rains, you're wet.
Yeah.
But if it snows, it kind of just sticks on you.
Mhm.
It doesn't
Yeah.
actually like make you feel cold. It's more of just the
It's
weather
just aesthetically
itself.
pleasing, too.
Yeah.
Not just wet, you're wet and it's freezing.
Yeah.
So it's a
If it
double
happens to be
whammy.
cold, yeah. If it happens to be cold when it's
winter,
raining.
yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
icy. It just sucks
Yeah.
to drive.
And then you have ice, that's another
Right.
thing. So
No, I would prefer the rain.
Oh, really?
I think-
would prefer the
yeah.
rain. Oh,
If I had to choose
Snow or rain?
Snow.
Weather
no,
tier
snow. I would
list.
choose snow. But if I were to choose snow or rain, I would choose rain.
and why is that?
Really?
I mean, at least in the rain, it's a more calming ambience, right? You
Well, it depends how hard it rains.
You hear the thunderstorm, right? You hear the lightning.
I don't think
Yeah.
that's calming at all.
I think it's good for like
Unless you're worried the
sleeping.
Wi-Fi falling off, right?
Oh, yeah, never mind.
Cable service,
Cable
no
service
antenna.
down.
No
you know?
gaming.
Right. Better call ComEd.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I would rather have rain.
Okay.
Yeah. Good questions, guys.
Yeah, we're just
Going through all the weather now.
What do you think about this?
Think about heat storms
Yeah.
or sandstorms.
But we can go back again to the
the
whole
weave.
college
yeah.
experience. Right. So school was a bit of a traumatizing time, right? Because I had to learn English. So
Right. Would you say how long would it take you? Do you feel confident in your conversational skills? I mean, probably different times you felt comfortable at it, like conversation, then writing, and then like reading. Could you have like a time
It's-
frame? Did it
it's-
all happen at once? Did it
it's
happen?
it all kind of
couple
happens within your eureka moments, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Right. You're listening to something and you're listening to that beat, especially music, and then you can kind of hear some phrases and words, and you can start listening to the division of where one word ends and another one starts, right? And you find out that the meaning of one of the words, and you can kind of put together what the whole sentence meant, right? So I started trying to learn on my own by listening to music,
Yeah.
and I would listen to like a Shania Twain.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
back in the day.
That was like the 90s.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's how old I am, right?
Oh, you're still young. You're still young.
You're only as old
we-
as you feel, man.
We listen to older music too.
I'll tell you something about age.
It's just a number.
And the reason is
It's also the name of a song.
you're not growing.
Aaliyah.
You're not growing up any more than what you are now. You get to learn more and apply more, but you're not growing up anymore.
Well,
You're-
there's
you're-
maturity, though. I think
Right.
that's a sense of
you get
growing
to
up.
apply, right? But trust me, I feel just like a kid right now.
That's how you feel.
That's
yeah,
why I
yeah.
can talk to Dominic about stupid stuff.
Hey, I'm mature now.
Yes,
I do my own taxes.
but yeah, I would grab.
Misinformation.
My mom does them still.
You guys were obviously not around for it, but back then there used to be I guess you can say a scam. It
I mean,
was
there's a lot of these.
There's a lot of scams. So this is an old one. This is before all the scams you get on TV or,
Yeah.
Oh, this was the
or on
OG
the
scam.
internet. This is right.
The OG
This
scam.
used to be the CD scan.
You
You guys never
heard
knew
of it.
that?
No.
No, it is
Explain
not.
So
Yeah.
this used to be, from my understanding, right? There were CD subscriptions, so you could buy CDs,
Okay.
right? You buy one, you get another one free, but you got to continue to buy. So my mom somehow got stuck into that, right? And she started buying CDs, and it's like, well, here's a coupon. You got to buy more CDs in order to take care of get another free one. And it was kind of hard, convoluted to explain, but really they just had you hooked.
Okay.
So she was always buying 2-3 CDs per month, right? And she got
And
to
the
the
store
point.
sold you this, or like how?
No,
how
no,
did
this
like,
all
did you
happened.
like see this in like a magazine?
They
Like,
would,
what
you would
happened?
get ads. You would
And,
get
like, where,
ads.
though? In, like, just TV?
Just the mail.
And then you just,
Oh.
Just the mail.
then you just like call the number or something.
You
and
would
then,
mail it out,
Mm.
right?
Oh,
They would
okay.
pay for the stamp. You would just mail it out, and
How would
you would
you?
or cut off the CD cover, put it inside the envelope, and then they would charge you for that, right? You were getting CDs at a really good cost, but they had you hooked. It's kind of like
Yeah.
the subscription that just won't end, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
How do you get like billed and like how do you send the money? Is it like via
there was
check?
checks, right?
Yeah.
Back
Had
then,
to be.
checks.
Yeah.
Right. So she would send like, oh man, now I have to order 5 CDs. Mingo, do you want a CD? I'm like, what? I don't even listen to music, right? I'm 10. What do I care?
Your birthday gift is
Here's what you
50
see.
CDs.
No, I have one of those old
players?
CD cases.
Oh,
You know,
yeah,
the
okay,
ones
okay.
that
Yeah,
the
open up.
three ring binder style
Oh,
with
yeah.
a bunch of
okay, yeah.
CDs.
I just had one of those.
Yeah.
Right. I
Yeah.
have one because of how many CDs I got hooked onto. Because she's like, hey, it's time to
another
order
one.
that new
It's that
CD,
time
right?
of the
So-
month again.
Right. I ended up getting, I'm like, pick a CD. I didn't know, but she was definitely beautiful. And I said, I want that one. Right? So I get a CD from Shania Twain, but the CD had the words and the lyrics on the covers, right? The little covers that came, they were little booklets. Now it's just a piece of paper sheet, right?
Yeah.
But before it used to be,
I haven't got CDs.
right?
Now
It was a little book with a little bit of story, all the lyrics to all the songs, right? So I would listen to it and listen to it and translate it and follow along.
So let me ask you this, because I know some of my friends who learn Spanish first and then English second, when they speak English, they translate it in Spanish, and then they like say I speak to you in English, and you translate in Spanish in your head, and then you translate what you're gonna say, and then you speak it in English. Do you do that too, or no?
No.
Okay.
It's all on autopilot right now.
Okay. That's good.
Right.
That's really good.
But don't ask me to do any math or spell
Well, that has
anything.
nothing to do with it.
No, there's a thing.
Language, but
There's something to it. Is when I learned my numbers and my ABCs, I learned them in Spanish.
Okay.
Right. So that's kind of like hardwired. So whenever I have to do numbers at work, like 2 times this, 2 times that, like in English, I get jumbled
Turn
up.
off, yeah.
It doesn't work. If somebody says spell your name, right? That's what you would get. Spell your name. I'm like
short circuit rule.
I thought math would be the same because we use the same numbers.
It is the same numbers, but the numbers are different.
Okay.
They sound.
So it's even
numbers.
something basic as like
do the math.
pronouncing it as like you have to like kind of translate it, and like that makes you slower already.
I can do the math in Spanish in my head,
Yeah.
and then I can say the result in English.
Oh, I see.
Right. So the only thing that helped me later on was that song, that Bingo. Mingo was his name, right? So that helped me to spell my name because it was D-O-M-I-N-G-O, D-O-M-I-N-G-O, right? Domingo was his name.
That's actually hilarious.
That's awesome.
But you gotta do what you gotta do to make those connections, though. No doubt.
Right.
That's awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Did you watch a lot of TV growing up? Because I feel like that's at least when I was in like Spanish class, I'm like on the other end of things. They said like the best way to like really absorb the language is to like watch their media,
right?
And like you kind of absorb it naturally. Like, I mean, it's easier if you're a kid and like you absorb it like a sponge, but it's still really effective once you're like older.
Yeah, no, TV was a huge part of it. I think watching The Simpsons.
Makes sense.
Right?
Nice.
I've heard of people learning English just from watching Friends. Like the TV
Friends.
show.
Yeah, the guy
Friends
from
was
BTS. That's what he did.
Oh, really? That's funny.
He watched it in Korean. Then he watched it with in English with Korean subtitles, and then he watched it all in English, and that's how he learned English.
Yeah.
He watched Friends. I'm like, dang.
Makes sense.
So it was, it was. I could say the Simpsons. Seinfeld was huge.
Okay.
Seinfeld was huge to learn what sarcasm was.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Some people today still don't even
get
understand.
it. Right. One of our friends doesn't get it.
Right. No, they get insulted.
What'd you say to me?
Right. Yeah, they get insulted with sarcasm.
No, I'm joking.
It's a joke, bro.
But, Seinfeld was huge. Friends was huge, and back then too, you had, 12 channels.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So you couldn't just scroll endlessly. You could only click through, or grab the pliers and turn the TV enough to get another channel, and you're like, oh, I'll just keep it there because the antenna is working.
The
right?
antennas, yeah.
And then at the same time, not only did you have your 12 channels, your 5 main ones, they didn't have that many shows.
Right.
So it was the same show you saw in the morning
was rerun at night.
was rerun at night.
Yeah.
So I get to have a double whammy of Dragon Ball Z, right? I would watch half the show in the morning before I went to school, and the other half when I got home. Right?
It's still on.
Right? Got to catch it. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, watching TV was like that. You get to see a lot of reruns. So I would see the same Seinfeld episodes and, learn some more about the culture and things like that.
Right.
Of course, I still liked my good old Mr. Bean. You guys know who that is?
The silent guy.
The silent guy, because of the same thing, right?
Yeah.
There was no speaking. There was no voice. It was just a Charlie Chaplin-esque type of comedy that just hit everybody the same.
Yeah.
Was it also a show or was it just like the movie?
Mr. Bean was a show, was a
Sure,
TV
it's a
show,
show, yeah.
right? The movies were turned into the best skits of the show.
Oh,
Okay.
They put the
All
best
the greatest
skits,
hits.
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, because
Best
there were
moments,
skits, right?
whatever.
Like getting a turkey stuck in his head, right?
Yeah.
Which later on, the show Friends ended up copying it, right? Getting
Oh yeah, like okay.
yeah, that came from Mr. Bean. He was the first one to
It's
get
pioneer.
Just
right.
put his head in turkey.
his head inside the turkey, right?
Yeah.
But some of the other skits made it all into the movies. Ron Atkinson is Mr. Bean.
Yeah.
But so I would watch that. Unfortunately, they would play that like at 11 o'clock at night.
Oh,
On,
dang.
Late night show.
11 o'clock at night when I was supposed to be asleep.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was just laughing and covering my mouth and trying not to laugh, trying not to burst myself into
Yeah.
laughter, wake up my parents. Because
Right.
back then, they were working. So,
Right.
but yeah,
And did you have any like siblings growing up, or is it just you?
I have two siblings.
Did they like?
But-
What would you say their experience was compared to yours? Was it very similar or very
Probably
different?
different.
Different.
I
Okay.
would
Are they
say
younger?
different. No, they're both older. I'm the
Both
youngest
older,
one.
okay.
I'm the youngest one. Yeah, but no. My brother was older and also had started learning English, right? Because again, I come from a touristy town where English was a priority. Now it's necessary, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But back when he was going to school, they're like, "Hey, by the way, one of your classes is English."
Oh.
So he had that. I did not get that. I was not in that school grade yet. So it was a little different. He was doing okay. They're both doing all right.
Well, that's good.
But
Are they
I can't
both
say
still in
everybody.
Illinois, or do they move somewhere else?
they're in Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's good.
they're both around.
That's
Somewhere.
good.
Somewhere.
Somewhere doing
somewhere
their
remote,
thing.
yeah.
Somewhere out there.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, it's definitely fascinating, especially hearing it from like someone coming as an immigrant. Because I know like your parents and my mom are like the same way coming in as, because we're first generation U.S. citizens, so I can imagine the struggle of like trying to transition from one culture to another. So there's some result of like culture shock of like adjusting. So it's like really fascinating, and I respect.
Now you
that.
get a reverse culture shock, right?
Because you go back
now,
to
going back to
yeah.
Mexico, it's
You're
like,
just like,
oh
whoa.
man, I remember kicking that can of soda pop right into
Right.
that
Yeah.
post, and it's still there, right? 10 years later,
Yeah.
right? I remember walking to my grandma's house, walking up the hills, and seeing those potholes and seeing that trash, that little bag of Frito Lay's.
Still there.
5-10
10 years
Fritos
later.
aren't there.
Right.
The potholes.
Have you visited like recently at all?
Maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, 2-3 years.
Yeah, I have a friend who he's also from Mexico, and they definitely believe in ghosts. Like he said that every time he goes back to Mexico, like there's something that's like flickering the lights on and off, like in the middle of the night, and they would yell at it in Spanish to like basically like, shut the F up, and then like it stops.
It would stop.
So yeah, he
Scary
told me like
stuff, man.
he really believes in ghosts, and there's like no denying it.
It's hard to say what it is, right?
How does you like believe in ghosts or
Paranormal. It always
We're
goes
all-
to
ghost
paranormal.
aliens.
Better watch out.
We have a fifth guest, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, what'd you say?
I mean, there's a lot of culturally. There's a big push to believing that there's something else beyond life, right? And that's just culturally across the board, right?
Yeah.
But I think experiences help that, and I haven't had any experience.
No doubt.
Right?
Experience, yeah.
And but I wouldn't shut off my mind or my opinion on it unless I had one. I'd be like, well, hey, maybe everybody else that was talking about it was right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you have generations and generations to continue to talk about this. Right?
There's like
There's
urban
this-
legends and stuff too.
Right.
That's just another aspect of things get passed down generation
Right.
by generation.
It's kind of
Because
like,
like I think Mexico's like really big on the chupacabra, right?
right.
So that's like a huge thing that's got
South
passed
America,
down.
right?
Yeah,
It all
passed
came from
down.
South America.
Right, generation.
And
Isn't there like La Llorona or something like that?
La
Oh, yeah.
Llorona. La Llorona, yeah. The mom screaming. Yeah.
Oh,
White ghosts flying through the trees, screaming, grabbing babies.
Oh,
I
haven't heard of that one.
But
Yeah, I was just looking into that recently because like there's an anime that we were all watching called like Dandadan, and one of the arcs is kind of like based off of that story.
I haven't gotten to that episode yet, but probably, yeah. I'll probably see it. I think I'm still in the 4th episode.
Oh, you really?
That's a good show.
Yeah, so I'm catching up.
There you go.
But yeah, no, culturally, I think there could be something, maybe. I mean, we have only 5 senses, right?
Right.
Most people would say, "Oh, we have 6 senses." No, you don't. You have 5 senses.
Until something happens to you, then the sixth
and then
sense.
what started that Sixth Sense was the whole notion of the movie Sixth Sense, right? Which could sense ghosts, and then all of a sudden, oh, we got 6 senses. No, we got 5. But with that being said, we can only see lights in certain spectrums. We can only hear in certain decibels,
Ranges,
right?
Yeah.
And there are many more in the universe that we cannot see. So if there's something else beyond, maybe if something turns off my lights when I go home, then I'll say, hey, by the way,
Yelling in Spanish.
by the way,
It's like if you have a
Portuguese.
dog that just randomly starts barking in the middle of the
And that
night,
happens, right?
they can hear things that we can't
Oh, yeah,
because
that's
their
true,
hearing
yeah.
range is a lot
Right.
greater than
Or they could
ours.
see and stuff.
Yeah,
Dogs
not-
could see supernatural,
Yeah.
and kids could see the supernatural.
Dogs and horses alike. You know, whenever there's going to be an earthquake, they're the first ones to jet. They take off. They realize something's coming. They take off and take shelter. They can feel the vibrations from the earth. They can feel that something's coming, right?
Yeah.
And they're not sensing any paranormal activities. Their senses are just heightened. So imagine if we had heightened senses, then we could probably see remnants of your grandma walking around, or
That'd be cool.
you know, somebody, right? I mean, if that were to be existent,
Right.
then all we would need is to have better senses.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're going in that direction with the cell phones in our hands, but
Yeah.
you know, we're dumbing each other down. But
So we're
no
losing
doubt.
senses.
we're
now.
losing
Yeah.
senses, right? Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if we were able to see or have the sense of the supernatural, I think it would debunk what happens in the afterlife. I think that whole can of worms
Yeah, we
is
just know
like,
everything.
yeah, it's like, oh, we actually just exist in the world, but as like a greater
Spirits or something,
being,
yeah.
spirit.
hmm
So like, oh, people believe in like heaven, hell, and some people believe in like the underworld and stuff like that, or purgatory. So there's like so much possibilities of what's next after this life. But
Yeah.
us having that ability to do that, I think it brings out removes the question of like what is actually after this life. We'll never know until.
Yeah.
But if we had that ability, then we would know. So
Right. You can see that in older people, right? I'm old, just not that old yet. You can see that
Just
in
like
older,
medium old.
Right.
Medium old.
I'm
Not
what you
old,
would call
yeah.
an adult, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to adult the
middle
best I
age,
can,
you know,
right?
middle
Yeah.
age,
Young
you
man.
know?
But you can see that in older people. They have a different sense to the way they go about their life, right? They're almost like at peace. Most of them,
Because they're more at the finish line than the
right?
start.
They
Yeah.
realize that they're at peace with what they have to do. They're trying to finish up what they have to do, and they can already sense that there's something else. So maybe, just maybe, yeah.
We'll never know.
We will.
I mean, actually,
You were gonna wait
just hopefully not anytime soon.
Just
Hopefully
not in a
anytime
hurry,
soon,
right?
yeah.
Nobody's in a hurry to get there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
As
enjoy
far
this
as-
life, you know.
As far as hell, right? Life is pretty close to what you would say hell.
I mean,
this is
tribulations, no doubt.
right. The only place that you can have as hell is here, because here you have your senses that can feel things, right? You can feel things. You can get burned. You feel
Yeah.
cuts. You feel emotional pain.
You just feel mortality,
Right.
You know,
you feel
mortality,
mortality,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You feel vulnerable. You feel that, and that could be a description of hell. People that fall into that, like depression or major injuries, can go that route and go even deeper, and they're in their own personal hell.
Because they're just in
And
constant pain.
They're in constant depression, pain, solitude, right?
Yeah.
And they're trying to get out of that,
Right.
and that's pretty much their own hell. Sometimes for them could be a room, right?
Right.
Have you guys seen the movie The Whale?
No, I've
No,
not.
no, I haven't.
Oh,
Let alone heard of it. I haven't heard of it.
What's that one about?
Brandon Fraser, the guy who did George of the Jungle.
I know that
Okay.
one. Yeah, I know that one.
If you describe it, it might like click to me because I think I've heard of it, but I haven't
Right now
watched
it's
it.
on Netflix. I definitely recommend it.
It's like a book first that got adapted into a movie, or
I don't know where the main story came from, but it's the story that takes place just about in one living room.
okay.
Right. Oh,
It
so-
all takes
It's like the podcast.
Who's the whale?
There's a whale among us.
Just
Brendan Fraser, the main actor in this, I forget what the name is in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like his character name.
His character name, right? Because I know him more as he's the actor,
Yeah.
right? Because he's the guy from The Mummy. You see the movie? The
I have
Mummy?
not.
No,
I've seen all of them. I don't know. I think
The
The Rock
original
was in
Mummy,
it.
right?
I think
The
The Rock was.
original movie.
It was like
movie,
the second or
Mummy.
third one.
So he's obese, morbidly obese,
Mhm.
and pretty much is hell, right? He cannot walk, he cannot move freely, he cannot stand up freely.
I think I've heard of
His
this.
depression is the only way he can control it is by overeating and eating,
Mhm.
eating, right? Binge
Yeah.
eating until he kind of satisfies,
His depression.
right? That ease. And meanwhile, he's got a little clipper thing just to grab things that are far away from him. If something were to fall onto the floor, well, that's
screwed.
hell,
Yeah.
right? A key fell under the doorway. That's hell for somebody,
Mhm.
right? So we're here to make the best of it, right? You
Yeah,
guys-
no doubt.
Yeah.
You gotta make the most with the cards you're dealt, no question. But that's really an interesting perspective. I never really thought about it in that way.
It is, but the thing is, the cards that are dealt,
Mm-hmm.
you can always pick one up. You can always turn it over. You can always set it aside.
Mm-hmm.
And just because it's dealt doesn't mean you have to play that hand,
Yeah.
right? You can always bow out.
Mm-hmm.
So just
Or
because,
fold, yeah.
right? You can just because of genetics or just because your environment is a specific way doesn't mean you have to go that route,
Right.
Yeah.
right? You can always say, wait, well, what are the alternatives?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something I did a lot in my youth was I didn't ask. I just took the route that seemed the closest, best possible route to take. And now looking back, it's like, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that.
Well, everyone has regrets or things they could have
Right.
done differently.
Mhm.
And
That's the point of
that's the
living life.
and that's
You learn from
maturing,
experience. Yeah.
right?
as
That's
well.
maturing, right? Because I can look back at my parents, right? Because like I said, I was brought here,
Right.
Mhm.
but the people that brought me here, were people that were my age now. And I
Mhm.
think
Right.
of that, I'm like, oh my God, my parents were just like me right now.
Yeah.
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 And they brought a little kid with them to this country and they had to go through that. I'm like, oh my God.
Mhm.
How were they able to go through that? I'd be stressed out. I'd be
Right.
pulling my hair out.
You ever
Yeah.
talk to them about like anything?
No.
Or?
No,
It was
I
just-
don't. I mean, they're still older than me, right? They're still more experienced than me. That their point of view is different now, right?
Mhm.
Every 4 years, as far as I've felt it, every 4 years has been like a life-changing moment, right? You have generations, and generations tend to be within 20 years,
Right.
right? There's just
Gen
about a
Beta
20,
just started. So
right?
yes,
20-year difference.
10 to 20 or 15 to 20, I think it is. But yeah.
Right. So, and now the generations are getting a little bit more compressed.
I don't
Just the newer ones that
I think
are coming
I
up.
think it's just like the overlap of
But-
generations are
right, the
more or
over-
less like in Gen Alpha and Gen Beta, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for y'all out there that are Gen Alpha and Gen Beta, but y'all seem like in the same because the technology is so driven. It seems like there's not much not much difference.
Not much difference.
between-
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of overlap between the two, so I understand what you're saying on that.
But having different generations and maturing this way, I can look back at my parents and man, I have some respect. And you guys should too for your parents. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna be this age at some point. You're gonna like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that.
Yeah.
Right? I can't believe they were working day in, day out. They could not follow their dreams. They could not follow what they wanted to do. They could not engage. Right? You become you're surviving.
hmm
Right? And I think you can say that for a lot of people, right? Because you can say that the top 1%, right? They say that a lot. You hear that a lot in the media, or you hear that a lot in posts, like the top 1%, 1%. That's a lot of people. That leaves 99%. And that's everybody else.
right.
Where we're like, well, I grew up doing this, I grew up doing that, and I did not have this, I did not have access to that, right? So like right now, my parents had a specific type of knowledge that only got them through and got them as far as it possibly could to get me moving forward. But I don't know if you guys have noticed, but at one point you have to teach your parents something, right? You have to help them with something. You have to help them with emails. You have to help them set up their phones, right? Right. There's a generation gap where you are all of a sudden you're knowing more than your parents do
because of how the times have changed, right?
Right. And you're growing with that time while they grew up only enough to know so much to get you through. And they're only going to be your age. Like you could be a father right now, right? And then you're
They'll
not
teach you
thinking about
something, right?
your kid 20 years from now will be teaching you something. You're like, wow, shit, I was his age. I was his age and didn't know that, right?
Right. Let alone it wasn't available. Like, but
well, that's one thing that wasn't available. One thing that the world is different, right? Now,
it's continuing to evolve. Yeah, no doubt.
Right. The type of knowledge out there keeps changing, and needs that you have get you to learn more. So the needs that I've had in my life, that's what got me to college. Right. Because I was in construction doing heavy labor, and that's all I knew. Because that's all my dad taught me. Right. I said, I don't want to go to school. Why would I want to go to school? I mean, everybody goes through that, right? But my parents said, no, you don't want to go to school? Well, that's fine. That's okay. I'm like, come on. Really? I was that easy?
No resistance.
I don't have to go to school.
No arguments?
Dragon Ball all morning, right?
I was figuring out how to say this to you without really offending you in any way, but it was like easy like that.
You just have to be up Monday morning at 4 a.m. because you're going with your dad to work, right? I couldn't sleep that night. I remember that night. I stayed on the couch. I stayed ready with my boots. I stayed ready with my lunchbox. And I was trying to sleep and then doze off and then wake up and be like, is it 4 a.m. yet? 4 a.m. yet? Like I did not want to fail my dad because they're like, hey, if you're not going to school, then I'm going to be there first thing in the morning.
Right.
I better be there first thing in the morning. Right. So
I think there's a certain sense of nerves and excitement for the, like starting a new opportunity. Cause for me, starting a new job, I have that same kind of like emotion and feeling. I would start a new job. I'm like, oh, is it time for me to get up yet? I wake up like 3 or 4 different times. And then I'm like, anxiety, excitement, new opportunity, but hopefully it goes well. First day jitters, all those type of things. So I totally understand where you're coming from with that.
But then again, I was only 14.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's even worse.
There was no responsibility behind that. There was no need for me to work. It was just, you're not going to school, just get up. And I'm like, I'll be there. I'm not going to fail my dad. Right. And out of that, started going to work. And they had the idea that I was going to hate it because it's concrete. It's manual labor. Right. And there's no way he's going to like working with rocks, with shovels, getting dirty, getting messy. He's going to hate it, being up from 4 o'clock in the morning, up until 6 p.m., getting home. Right. He's going to absolutely be crawling to school tomorrow, like Tuesday. Like, how is it?
He's begging to get out of this.
It was the complete opposite. I don't know why. And it probably had to do with the guys that I was working with. And I'll say this, the guys that I was working with were much older than me. And I can say they were much older than me. Trust me, there were young guys that were starting that were younger than me when I was already learning and teaching others, right? So 18, 17, right? They're starting to touch into that field, especially if your parents 16, are already doing 18, it, right?
Yeah. But I mean, 14 though is like the example. Like you don't see new people that age.
14, right? So I'm like thinking it's gonna be okay. I'm gonna do it. But the guys that were doing it were about my age now, right? And I think back and I'm like, wow, what would I have done if my colleague brings their 14-year-old kid? What am I gonna do? Come here, buddy. I'll take care of you, right? I'll teach you. I'll make sure you don't get hurt. Don't pick up the shovel that way, kid. Right? Don't do that.
Out your back or something like that.
Don't do that, right? And there were older guys. There was this one gentleman. His name was Wesley Krantz. I don't know what went off with him, but I know he was much older, right? He was in his late 50s by the time I started. And he went to college. He had a high degrees education, was one of the only ones that spoke very well English, right? His English was like, I picked up a lot of from him. Was, don't do that, kid. That guy's an asshole. Don't listen to him. Do this, do that, don't that, the other.
I like you do the accent. It sounds like a little middle-aged man.
Yeah. And then you had the clowns that would say, hey, I'm going to teach you how to swing a maul. Like a big jackhammer maul, right? I'm like, all right.
Don't know any better.
Well, you grab this, girl, just put it in between your legs and just swing, right? I'm like, all right. Here I go. Bah, 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 right on the thumb, right? I'm like, no, keep going. You're going to get it. I'm like, oh, man, all right. But here, you got to, the best way to learn is you pick the biggest puddle in the area, right? You're talking about new home constructions. There's puddles everywhere, especially in the summer, right?
Right.
Let's grab the biggest puddle in the area, put a 3-foot stake on there, and then you hit the stake.
Right.
But if you miss the stake,
all the water goes
all
on.
the water flashes right up at you, right? So here I am. Sure enough, man, I miss, and I am flooded, soaked with mud water that the porta potties just down the block, and I'm thinking, oh God, what do I have all over me, right?
What a shitty day, right?
No pun intended.
But at the same time, this were the guys that picked me up when I was 14. You know, they taught me a sense of humor. They taught me how not to get hurt. They taught me how to do the job without getting hurt, right? And they cradled me and they helped me out in ways that maybe my dad was not
able to do.
Right.
Also, you have the perspective of him coming in.
He was working.
But did was he well versed in English as well, or no? So I think that those experiences helped you develop your, as you said, your humor and stuff like that.
Right. It's in a way, right. And the thing is, I didn't spend time with my dad until I started working.
Yeah.
And that's something that a lot of people don't have with their parents, right? So I worked next to my dad for the better part of 10 years. And I got to see how much of a sacrifice it was for him, how bad it was for him to provide. And like I started working when I was 14. By the time I was 16, I'm like, man, I don't want any more neat jeans. I don't want clothes. I don't want to spend my money. Like, it's really hard to get that money. It's really hard for him. Like, he's got to stay out there in the sun, like the type of work we were doing. We were shoveling loads and loads of gravel, concrete, hauling pieces of lumber on your shoulder for blocks, right? So I got to have that mad respect for my dad, for him showing me how to do it. The very first week, though, that I worked, they grabbed me, put me in machines, do this, do that, get on that. Like, seriously, I can get on that lift? Yeah, get on the lift, man. And they're all having fun, all these construction guys. So this is a long time ago, right? So there weren't as many cameras as they are now. Imagine now a 14-year-old kid driving a skid loader, right? Like a bucket, a skid loader. You guys see those?
Stop that instantly.
Right. They would stop you instantly. But back there, in the middle of the Illinois, in the middle of Huntley, in the middle of nowhere. Like, just get on the skid loader, kid. Like, every time you push forward, all the 4 wheels would just cock and just go forward, right? At the same time, full power all the time, diesel engine. And there I go. And I loved it. I loved it. And I said, hey, do you want to go to work tomorrow? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the way it sounds, you have every day is different.
You're just looking forward to it now.
Learning new experiences each day, it sounds like.
But in all honesty, it only went up a week. Maybe a week and a half. And then I was beat. Man, I got in the car and I don't remember. Oh man, what's going on? We're home. I would lay down on the floor. I'm like, do you want to go back to school? I'm like, yeah. And then they go back to school, right? So ever since then, I could just go to work with my dad on any holiday. Any holiday from school for me was work, right? Any holiday, vacation, winter, summer break for kids was time for fun, time to hang out with their friends. For me, it was time to work, right? So that pretty much happened until I was 18. As soon as I turned 18, hey, now you're of age, time to go union, right? Because college was not an option. My parents did not see college as an option because in their mind, well, if you go, it's expensive. You have to pay, right? They had no idea the world around them. And I can think back to if it was me, I'm like, oh my God, I would have investigated. But now I have the tools to just Google stuff, right?
Yeah.
Back then, my parents did not have that.
Yeah,
Right.
you had to read books, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a thing.
Hey, they got some letter in the mail and they're buying CDs. So that's all they had.
Yeah.
So it's like, get a federal loan, we can send you to school. Well, that sounds like a thing, right? They didn't have that.
Yeah.
They had no notion of that. So for them, it was not an option. If you went to school, you went to college, then you had to pay for yourself, right? There was no, I'm going to help you. And the same thing happened to my other siblings, which we all got by, right? But it was under the same thing. Now I think back, I'm like, man, I was growing up right in the peak of Grand Theft Auto. Right at the peak of Nintendo being a home console, right? I was going down Family Video renting the games, and I'm thinking of drawing up. Like my first drawings were drawing games, Super Mario Bros. And the Nintendo 64.
Right.
I mean, those were my doodles.
Yeah.
Those were my coloring
Prime
style,
time
right?
for it, yeah.
And even back then, I would make so many, I would just, I'll make another one, right? I didn't know my mom was picking them up.
Oh.
Yeah. So now I have them.
So that's the origin story of how you got into the art school, then,
Kinda, right? Yeah.
Or the inspiration of why you wanted to pursue
the inspiration
art.
was art. Was always games were always behind it, right?
Yeah.
So, and games were kind of behind it, and they were there with me because I didn't know my English wasn't the best. You couldn't socialize as much either, right? It's not like you can text somebody from school. We had no text. We had no cell phones, right?
Use the roll.
There was one phone in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it was for everybody. And forget about using the dial-up line. You know, you couldn't use that. But I had games. I had Sega. I was playing Vector Man. I was playing Sonic. I was playing Road Rash. You know.
Yeah.
I was playing all those games and I was drawing the stuff. And then I would draw. I'd chuck the papers away. My mom was picking them up, folding them, unfolding them, and then
putting them away somewhere.
Putting them away, and then she gave them to me. When I'm older and I was starting to save, I realized, hey, wait, maybe I have a talent.
Yeah.
Right? I started to save them. And she's like, oh, well, hey, by the way, you have all this stuff that you colored and you drew back when you were young. And I'm like, oh, wow. Hey, well, hey. You know, and even then it stayed just kind of with me, right? College was not an option. And I thought, well, maybe I can continue to work, save enough money, and then go to college. But then when you're working, you just fall in love with money, right? When you start...
Which is kind of hard to do because I have experience of, I was working full time. I went to grad school. So it's kind of like hard to
do both.
Like stop working and have the money to provide for yourself still and go to school full time, or do both at once, which is another task in itself.
Yeah, no, I mean, then you have also the fear. You have a fear that I think it's just the primal fear of just quitting something and starting something new, right? So not only was I liking the money, I was liking doing the construction work, right? I was liking driving all over the counties. I mean, I've driven all over the counties, all 6 counties in Illinois, northern counties, right? And some Wisconsin counties as well. So I was always driving every day, 2 hours, two hours minimum a day, right?
GPS is on.
And driving from town to town, it was a very eye-opening experience. You know, the world was at reach. You did not have GPS. I had a book.
Yeah, or the map. You had to pull it out. Or MapQuest, maybe.
MapQuest.
This was before
or
that
you
too,
would
right?
print out and you would like measure the miles, right?
Yeah.
You drive 10 miles on that direction, and then you got to turn left. And then you drive 15 miles in that direction. So you know that your dashboard on your car has a mile setter, right? So we would use that.
The odometer, yeah.
You would reset it, and then it sets back to 0, drive 10 miles, and then about to turn left, okay, and then reset it again, and drive another 15 miles, and then, all right, well, now I got to turn right, right? And then you get instructions from the guys. They're like, hey, drive this way, that way, that way. Once you get past this building, if you get past that building, you're too far. turnaround. You know, so it was guiding each other, helping each other out, like whoever knew where the construction site was.
Or just like locals or something like that you had to like rely on. I was like, oh, I'm going to this point here. Could you tell me?
That person is from that town.
Right. Go to the gas station or something like that, or a restaurant.
Around that car wash, right?
Right.
And then they tear that thing down and it's like, where is it?
It's like, oh,
driving straight. I'm like, I haven't seen a car wash yet. So I
haven't seen it yet. Because they go far enough.
Going full circle around that. This is prior 9/11. This is prior 9/11 when the Twin Towers went down. I was working in the building that was right across the college. And when I saw that, I'm like, man, I remember watching commercials to go to that school. And now I can see it. Like I didn't know it was this close. And I've been driving all over all the counties, and I've never seen that college. I didn't know it was that close. Now I know where it is. So if I ever can stop going to work and lose that fear, I know where the college is, right? So that was kind of like the
light switch that went off
right,
for you.
And it kind of stuck in my head, right? But you have to take that maturity with a grain of salt, because back then I still felt, man, I'm pretty pimp, you know. I got money, I got 2 cars, man. I got a house, man. Yeah, show me the money, right? Like
you're making it rain out there, right?
So
we're all struggling over here.
So I'm thinking,
different generations.
I am much smarter than those idiots going to that college. Right? That's pretty much it.
Talk your shit.
Right? Like those dumbasses going to school, they can't even measure. They can't swing a mall in between a part of the mall, right? So there was a different mentality where you feel superior and you feel like you're pretty well set. You know, you got your stuff. Maybe I don't need to go to college, right?
Right.
9/11 happens. And you guys were probably just growing up then.
Yeah.
We're 5.
4 or 5 years old.
Jesus, babies. It was pretty much a chain reaction across the country. And that chain reaction meant that every year after 9/11, the hours dropped. Like I remember.
What do you mean, like the days went faster?
No.
What do you mean by
the work hours?
Yeah.
Like I remember working 55 hours a week, 60 hours a week, right? And then next year, like you could see your average of hours. Okay, we're working 48 hours to 50 hours a week.
Okay.
And then the next year after that, we're working 45 to 40 hours a week. All right. And
the money's not coming in anymore, is what you're trying to say.
But we were getting raises, right? So it was like...
They kind of like offset each other? Okay.
Anyway, and then got to the last year that I was in that industry, we were barely making 40. We were barely making 40 hours a week. The house development slowed down. Concrete companies were going
approaching
bankrupt.
probably that time the recession as well, because
it was.
There would probably be less people or demand for houses because no one could afford houses. So maybe that's another
it was
caveat on top of why your hours gradually decreased.
Right. It was definitely a chain reaction that just hit everyone in that time. So then when we were barely making those the 40 hours a week, I get laid off. Right. And it was unexpected, to say the least, right?
Right. I mean, that's usually how it works.
I'm the only one in the crew that's not married, doesn't have kids, right? Well, somebody's got to go.
Yeah.
It's
going to be the one with the least amount of responsibilities, because all the other ones that have...
They have their livelihoods,
tied
right? To that job.
I mean, to this day, I remember my foreman calling me and in tears. Just, I'm sorry. Like, I did everything. I said everything. And I can think back at his age being my age now. Right? Probably a little bit younger. He was a little bit younger, maybe in his late 30s. At the time, he had to call me and let me go. Right? And I can still remember him. Man, it shakes me up a little bit. Just how destroyed, devastated. It's like, man, I have to let go of what to him was probably more like his son, baby, brother, or something, right?
Well, you
That
build
he-
these relationships with each other,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
over the years, and it's kind of you
Well,
like become as like tight knit group,
Right.
family
I
setting,
mean,
and then
you're working elbow to
Yeah,
elbow.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
In the
ass crack
trenches
to
with
ass
the-
crack.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
working
yeah.
right next to each other,
So,
sweating in the mud,
doing a call like that is,
Yeah.
I would imagine,
going
how tough it would have
through-
been.
through some very tough physical moments, right?
Right.
You're not just saying work. You're
Mhm.
physically trying to accomplish something, and
Right.
everybody has to put in their part, right?
Right,
Mhm.
right.
But yeah, he had to do that, and all of a sudden, I'm like,
Mhm.
what's going on? Like my life as I knew it was
Came
just
crashing down.
hard,
Yeah.
Mhm.
hard, right? Now I find myself in a crossroads, right? I have no idea what to do. I start looking for work and get into the situation where I run out of money. I'm starting to run out of money, even though I was making money.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And this is something that, if at the end of it, I want to leave you with, is I didn't save any,
Mhm.
right? As soon as it was coming in, it was going out.
Mhm.
And this pretty soon after I was laid off, I was under unemployment. Unemployment kept me going.
Mhm.
If it weren't for that, what would
Would
I
have
have
known,
done?
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, you're on the street.
Yeah. That,
I had to grab a bike, my bike, you know, the little red bike that my dad spray painted because he got it off the street somewhere. Like, it was just like the only thing available. And I had to go and apply for jobs, go and apply for work,
Mhm.
right? So do that for about a year.
Wow.
It was a whole year almost to the date where I drove around in my bicycle because I did not have money for
A
the
car.
vehicle.
Right.
What
Right,
kind
I
of
had the
jobs were
vehicle.
you looking for?
Anything.
Just anything,
For the
okay.
most part, I was looking for like more construction work,
Yeah.
Okay.
landscaping work.
Yeah.
And then at that time, it was just every time you would go in and set up an application, they would just look at you funny and they're like, yes, I'm here to apply for the job. That stack right there. And I'm legit a stack, you know, half a foot tall of just applications.
applied, okay.
And at that point, I'm like, well, what's the
Yeah,
point,
what's the
right?
Yeah.
Like I memorized my driver license number.
Because you filled out the
So I filled out so many
form so much.
It's still the same number, and I don't remember it now. But back then, right, I completely memorized a completely arbitrary number. Like, there's no reason for you to know your
Driver's license
driver's
number.
driver
Yeah.
license number. Besides, I'm making applications. So I made so many that I'm like, oh my god,
Here
right?
we go again.
Ah, shit.
Yeah. Here we go again.
Just getting like super in shape, just biking everywhere and like applying
I
for
wish.
Yeah, I
jobs.
think about that too.
I wish. No. I wish that was the result of getting in shape was biking. If that was the answer to all, then everybody would be on bikes. But unfortunately, it's not what you do, it's how much you put in there,
Yeah.
right? It's the calories consumed versus the calories expended.
hmm
So I was husky. I was still husky. I was big. You believe it or not, I used to be 200 pounds, just on the
Oh.
border of 200 pounds.
I can't imagine that. Like you look like someone that would probably have been like in shape your whole life. Just because like you're working in construction
Yeah,
as
you were in
well.
shape when I met you.
I mean, I was getting into shape, right? It's been
Yes, this is origin story, you know.
Yeah.
We're
From
building up to
Rex to
it.
now, you know.
origin story. I like that. That's a good title.
I mean, I came from a manufacturing background too, and sometimes we would have like off days where we're just like socializing, and one of the workers owned like a taco catering company, and he like made tacos for us, maybe like once every like month or so, and it was like so good, and I couldn't keep the calories down because the food was so good.
Yeah, no, it's definitely what goes in, right? But the bike didn't help. I was just about nearing 200 pounds, and it was something that went off in my head because I needed to buy a new pair of pants. And here I am, used to buying size, I think they were 34 at the time, right? And try to close it, doesn't fit. I'm like, what the hell? Tried 36 and that thing fit. And I'm like, what? How did I go up to 36? Like, how can this have happened?
Yeah.
Right? And that kind of made my switch to paying attention to my health. But the bike didn't help. I wish it did. But no, I biked for about a year until I found work in retail.
Okay.
And once I got in retail, I got into that rhythm of at least trying to save money, trying to hold on to it, trying to save some, trying to not spend as much, and trying to work as much as I could, right? And I started in retail. At the time, it was summer, and it was a temp job, which I did not know.
All right.
No.
Like, I found something.
I found something like after a year of searching.
You'll
Imagine
take what you could get for sure.
real.
Imagine-
even if it is a temp, they might hire you full time.
right.
Yeah.
But I didn't know
You didn't
I
know-
was a temp, right? I didn't know that. It was like,
Did they not tell you or like?
no, I mean,
okay.
maybe they did. Who knows?
I was excited. I got the job. Yeah. I just spaced out.
I did it.
Show up
got a
next
job.
morning.
Let's
Yes,
go.
I'll be there. Right.
Finally.
Right. So what time? I don't care. I'll be there. So it was like the very first callback in a year, and I was so excited to get back to working. And I start working. I start giving it my all. Start getting recognized for my actions, and
Heck yeah.
and supervisory team is like, hey man, this guy's good. This guy's taking he's right. We're keeping him right. Keep in mind, I went from school where I had a hard time with English. I went to work where I was talking with a bunch of clowns. Very few spoke English. The rest of them spoke Spanish. And the kind of Spanish that I was hearing was not very good Spanish. Right? You know how they say the first curse words you learn are, the first words you learn from a different language are curse words.
Yeah.
I got to learn them really hardcore in Spanish.
Yeah.
But so my English wasn't all there. It really wasn't.
Mhm.
And I go into retail. And in retail, you have to talk to the customer.
Yeah.
Right.
So you got thrown into the fire again.
In a
like the
different
second-
way,
yeah.
right?
And a second fire.
Another
Yeah,
fire.
got thrown into.
This is the origin story.
Instead of a fire, this time we got thrown into the ocean.
No,
So you
not
can swim.
And the thing is, I thought I was tough. I thought I was
sea of
big. I
fire.
thought I was unstoppable, right? You think the supreme thoughts of yourself are dominating, and all of a sudden, you got to go talk to people. Right?
I'm gonna do what now?
No, yes, you have to go. Ask them how they're doing. Can I help you? No, thank you. Right? And you walk off. And that was it. Made it. Can I help you? Yes. No, because that's all you have to do is say, can I help you? And everybody's going to say no, right?
Yeah, that's how
Yeah.
people are. No doubt.
So then I'm thinking, well, I'm making it. And then you get this old lady that's like, well, where do I get this? And how do I put that? And I'm thinking, oh God, now I gotta.
I actually gotta do my job.
Right? I'm trying to.
I'm not ready for this.
I'm trying to move things from A to B, lady. Come on, that's my main job. Oh, I'm helping your cat is not one of them. But yes, you had a question?
No.
No. So that's kind of where my English developed.
Okay.
That's where it was.
Another layer.
That was
Another
where
instruction,
it really,
and then-
really got pressed on.
Gotcha.
Right? I had to talk. I had to speak. I had to communicate, and I had to explain things, which I did not have to do before. Right? Before
You're just
they would-
messing around with the
Right.
guys, with the boys. You're just messing around.
I
with
tell
them.
you stories. I can tell you stories all day.
I bet you could.
I remember this one kid. We got sent off on a job, and they sent one kid with us.
And what do you mean by kid?
This is in retail or?
No, this is in concrete.
Okay.
Okay.
Going back.
Okay.
Let's
Back.
make
We're
it
doing the weeds.
let's make it
Yeah.
the weeds.
Timeline.
Let's go back in the timeline a little bit. And he at the time, I think he was early 20s,
Okay.
and I was barely 18, 19. So he was older than me. He was definitely older than me at the time, right? He was married already, and he had a kid on the way, and he needed a job. He started working there, and I'm thinking, hey, you take him with you. Go dig all the post holes, so which is like 4 foot down holes, right? And then we're gonna pour them with cement so we can build something on top of it, right?
Right.
So go dig out all the holes, get them ready. We're gonna go there tomorrow, pour the concrete, take this clown with you. I'm like, okay.
Take this clown.
So we go over there. I go talk to the superintendent and say, hey, vato, ¿dónde quiero los huecos? And then he's like, yeah, well, we're gonna need them here, back there. Okay, how can we get a truck down there? Do this, do that, the other. Or take the guy. Okay, let's go. We're gonna do some holes. Make a hole here. He's like, why do I have to do that? What the hell? Because I'm telling you to. Because I'm telling you to dig a hole there. So he starts digging it, right? And he's bitching and whining the whole time. And he's like, oh, I don't have to do this.
Yeah.
Why can't the other guys dig it? Because we got sent here to make the prep, right? You were sent with me, and I have to deliver. I can't fail because he's coming into my family at this point, right? Because I grew up, I already have 3, 4 years, 5 years with these guys that they're entrusting half the group to me, right? At this point, right? They're my parents, they're my dads. And I give up with them, and I said, you know what? Dig a hole here. And I just put
yourself in it.
I swear to God, I said, no, the superintendent wants a post here. So he's like, what? Yeah, dig a hole here. He started digging the hole, makes 4-foot hole. As soon as he was done with it, I said, oh, cover it up. He's like, what? Yeah, cover it up.
Damn.
I was rough, man. I was hard. I said, well, what do you mean?
Some tough love, man.
Superintendent doesn't want it there. So just cover it up. So he covers up, and I said, all right, dig a hole here. He's like, what? Do you want to dig another hole and cover it up? It's like, well, no. We'll dig a hole here. Because that's what we're supposed to do. You're supposed to do what I tell you. Right? Yeah. So I went from that type of environment to retail where I have to, how can I help you? What can I do for you?
Super polite.
Right. Yeah. How much bending do I have to do for you to buy this thing? Right.
Yeah.
And that was a whole transition where I went from working with big gorilla guys, like big burly man, right?
The old ladies.
To old ladies, women, guys, and people
walks of life.
Kids, like everything, right? That they don't know how to grab a tool. They don't know the difference in between a hammer and hatchet. It's to them it's an object with a handle on it, right?
Just a tool.
It's just a tool, right?
Yeah.
So go from that environment to try to learn how to deal with customers and how to speak to people, and I was just forced into it. And here I am doing my best. And how can I help you? I'll load this, load that, take this, take the other, right? And then one of the guys that's been there for a while was like, man, you're really good. And I'm like, yeah, thanks, man. Like, wow, man, you're doing an awesome job. And the management's talking about it. I'm like, yeah, that's all right.
You're doing like the bare minimum.
I'm the lowest one on the totem pole, right?
Yeah.
And then...
I feel like they have like low expectations like going in. Because I mean, like when you think about like retail and like teenagers that start working like their first job, usually they're going to like complain a lot and they're not
lazy
too much. And then you're just like, you're the only one that's like kind of actually putting in work. So
I'm
like,
putting in the work, but I was here, the teenager was the other kid. I was already in my 20s. Trying to figure out life after I got laid off, right? And here I am taking orders from another teenager telling me to do this and do that, the other. And I'm like, I guess so, right? If you say so, right? That's what I learned was...
kind of humbling, I guess. A different perspective of it all.
In a way, yes. Yeah. It's like, we got to move all those bags of mulch. I'm like, okay, let's go, right? I'll do it. Because that was easy work for me.
Yeah.
Right.
To look at it in the other perspective, that was all a piece of cake to me. I was driving machines since I was 14, right? So drive machine inside a building, piece of cake.
Yeah.
It's got forks in it, piece of cake. 4 wheels, no problem. 3 wheels, no problem, right?
2 wheels, no problem. 1 wheel, no problem. 1 wheel, no problem.
I'll drag it across the building if I have to, right? But I got it done, right? And then he's like, yeah, you're pretty awesome. I'm like, yeah.
I try to be, humble brag.
Yeah. Too bad you're a temp.
You're a temp.
And I'm like, what? No. Like my jaw hit the floor. I'm like, what are you? What is this word? This is new to me, man. It's like, yeah, once the season's over, once summer's over, you're... like,
just like, what?
Like flashbacks of the red bike kept crawling back to me. I'm like, no, man, I barely have money for gas. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm putting all this work in. Like, how can this be, right? I said, okay, well,
thanks for telling me.
I went and talked to these one of the assistant managers. Listen, I got word that I'm a temp. Like, what's going to happen to me? Like, am I? Like I'm
What's
trying
a
to.
temp?
Right, yeah. Like,
Please
like
help.
that's it. I'm living. Oh, yeah.
He's like,
That's what you signed up for.
Just like, yeah, that was the job. That was the position. Well, nobody told me, right? Like they just picked me up, said, "Hey, do this, do the other," and I'm thinking, "Oh, I'll get by. I can do that. I can do task, menial task. I can do those hands down, no problem." Right? I've been doing that all my life. And then all of a sudden, I'm not gonna have a job. I'm gonna be on the red bike looking for a job again, right? I'm gonna be
back to square one.
back to square one, and then I guess they sit me down with management.
Yeah.
Well, you really are a good asset, but obviously your English is not on the way there. I said, well, what else do you know? And at this point, I was only there a couple months, right?
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, what? I can drive the machines. And they're like, what? Yeah, I can drive the machines. Well, really? You can operate? Yeah, I can do that. Well, what else do you know? Well, I know how to do tile. I know how to do concrete. Like they had no clue who I was. They had no clue what I knew. They had no clue where I came from.
They didn't ask you during the interview at all?
But only one person does the interview.
Oh, okay.
What about your resume? Was that not on there at all, or was
It was,
resume
but
not
who
a
reads
thing?
the resume?
I mean, probably back then. Now everyone reads resume.
Maybe
Tweet
now,
it
right?
out,
So
tweet out.
only one person kind of knew, had an inkling of what my skills were.
Yeah.
Right. But all of a sudden, they're like, well, he knows how to do just about most of the tasks that we need him to do all around the building. And he's got actual on the field knowledge. Right. And I said, well, you know what? Let's pull some strings. I think we can put you somewhere different in the building.
Okay.
Where that temporary position goes away.
The temporary title is gone.
Yeah.
And you get to
becomes a
be
permanent one.
right. And I was there. I was working weekends, holidays, working in and out, and started moving up. Started learning about myself, started learning about work, started learning a little bit about saving. I didn't really get into that until later on.
Yeah, that's the thing. They don't teach you that in
They
school.
don't.
Yeah, not
and
at
they
all.
should.
I think it's on purpose, though.
Absolutely, because
Could be.
then you would
Consumerism
know.
is so bad.
You would know to pay all your credit cards first.
Or not use credit
There you
cards
go.
at all.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you can use credit cards. You have to be really smart about it.
Yeah.
It's just pay it all off, and then
Right.
you can take advantage.
Painful. Gotta
Pay in full.
But going back to finishing and being in that work environment, after a couple years, it was like, man, I have no life. I'm doing weekends. I'm doing holidays. Like, what can I do? What else do I have to do? Lo and behold, I remember there's that college nearby, right? And I can get a degree and I can learn something, and maybe I can get a job doing something that I love, something that I was still doing on and off because I didn't have the time to do it, right? I didn't have the pressure to do it. So I wasn't really drawing all the time. I wasn't sketching all the time.
Right.
And then looked into it, and that's how I ended up
Applying there?
applying to school. And
Yeah.
and I had my old drawings that my mom picked up because
Okay.
they wanted like
Yeah, like 10 drawings or something like that.
like something, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I have those. They're a little crumpled up,
Yeah.
but I have
Look
them.
at them.
They wanted it in like physical form because there
Right.
wasn't much digital options.
At the
Right.
time.
They wanted
Yeah.
to know that you could
Like it
make
was just kind
art.
of starting to grow.
Yeah.
Like
But
digital
I
art.
didn't know at the time that they could take in anyone off the street.
What they did.
All they wanted was a loan. You got good credit, you can get a loan. That's all we want.
Yeah, they did not care about those drawings.
Right? They did not care about the drawings.
They would take anyone.
So that's how I ended up and going back to school.
Okay.
And for me, was like a rebirth, right?
like a phoenix. There you
Yeah.
go.
Like
that new life.
yeah.
The
There you
origins,
go.
right? The origins,
Yeah.
the origins. Because I got to understand this time around what the
Yeah.
assignments were. I got to understand the history. I got to have fun doing writing assignments. I was learning grammar I didn't know. I was using it. I didn't
Yeah.
know it. Right? Reading and doing assignments, doing papers, doing research on the meaning of my name, like just projects that I should have done in school. I should have enjoyed in school, and I never did. Right? So school, in a way, going back to college, I remember one day driving home after one of our classes,
Yeah.
and I looked off the side, and I see some guys doing concrete work.
It's all full circle.
Yeah.
Full circle. I think, look at those idiots. That's it. They're pulling the shovel wrong. God, look at those morons just still working out there in the sun. And here I am getting a degree, man.
There you go. Heck
Right?
yeah.
So it's like, full circle.
Yeah,
Full circle.
and your perspective changed.
changed.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
I first time, those idiots.
You're shitting on the people going to the art school. Now you're at the art school shitting on the big cockers.
Here I am.
Now that I know something better, right? Now that I know something different, I'm thinking, those fools, poor guys working in the sun.
Yeah.
Right?
Couldn't be me, right?
We'll never do that again. So, it goes full circle. I mean, we graduated, and then luckily, all the loans were forgiven. Luckily, because until all the loans were forgiven, I was always in the divide. Was school really the best thing in my life, or was it really the worst thing in my life? Because now I'm going to be paying this bill for the better half of 15, 20 years,
Right.
right? And the reason that it weighed on me is because I realized what money is now,
Yeah.
right? I realized how important money is in the way to use as a tool to achieve things that you want to reach, places you want to reach, right? You can't get anywhere without money. You can't get anything without money,
Right.
right? But we don't know how to use the money. We don't get taught how to use the money.
Right.
There, like you guys mentioned earlier, there is no school for financial education.
Right.
There isn't.
Or just literacy, financial literacy.
What's a loan? What's interest rate?
What's
a
credit
percentage?
cards, right?
You have to go to
APR.
college to even learn that stuff, but to go to college,
And the
you have
thing
to
is-
take a loan.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Sorry, too
so you
late
have to
at that
screw
point.
yourself before learning that
And
you got screwed over in the first place.
Necessity brought
So-
that to me, right? I didn't learn it. I did it only because I needed it to, because I had to make ends meet, right? And you start thinking and you start hearing about, well, the market did this and the market did that. Well, what's the market? What do they sell fruit there or what? Like, what's going on with this market thing, right? And then you realize that, through the company that I was working part-time because at that point I was going to college. I was still working part-time. So they allowed me to stay there, right?
Yeah.
After I went from being a temporary, they allowed me to stay part-time.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
nice of
That's
them
a
because
power.
they realized I was so good.
Yeah.
There you go.
But I was able to do that and work and go to school.
There you go.
And that same necessity started to push me in the direction of learning more about investing. And investing is a big, scary word, but it really shouldn't be, right? Investing, all it really means is doing something with your money other than just putting it away. Because putting it into a savings
Or just
account,
make it work for you, basically.
right?
That's
Making
what
it
investing
work
is.
for you, right? The best way you can understand this is: do you all have a loan?
Yes.
Do you have a loan?
Yes.
Right?
No.
You have a
Yes.
loan, some kind of loan, house loan, car loan, credit
Yeah,
card,
yeah.
right? You
Credit
have some kind of
card,
loan,
I,
right?
I thought you meant just like
Okay.
student loans or something.
No. But any kind of loan. Any kind of loan earns money on interest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a little percentage sign next to the loan part of it, right? That little percentage sign is what keeps them in business. It's what gives them money,
Right.
right?
Because they never want you to pay off the principal. They want you to keep paying. And that's the whole point of the interest.
Even if you pay the interest, it's still money that they did not have, right? They loan you $10. Interest is $1. They don't care that you pay that $1 first. They care that they get $11 back,
Right.
right?
Or if it's paid off monthly, like it's $10, 1% per month. Say you pay $1, but it's $10. It'll be another.
But multiply that
$1.
times all the people in the country,
Right.
Times all the people getting that type of loan, right? Then all of a sudden you have a very, very lucrative business in lending people money and getting them in debt, because it's money, it's extra money they did not have. They can lend you $20,000. If they get $1,000 extra on top of that, it's fine.
Right.
Car loans tend to be very minimal. They don't make that much more money, but they make, because how many cars they sell, right? That's where they make the money. Not only that, they change the price of the cars. They don't sell them at MSRP. They sell it at a different cost, whatever the market demands, right? If we don't have cars in the lot, cars going to be more expensive. And the interest rate, well, that's extra money for us. Right? That's extra money for the loan officer and everybody else. Buying a house is the same thing.
Whatever,
okay, so investing, the market, what is that? It's turning around and you taking advantage of that percentage, whatever that may be, right? You have Walmart going up in value. You have NVIDIA going up in value, right? You have Microsoft going up in value, right? All that going up in value is interest earned to you. That's your money working for you. It's you letting that bank or that particular institution borrow your money and do something else that you can do, because all you're going to do is you're going to put it in the bank, right? In perspective, most banks will give you a 0.01% back in interest money.
Yeah, it just depends. I think you have to look for high yields savings. There's high yield savings account,
but they did not exist.
Right, now they do.
Now they do.
Right, because
high
usually
yield
those
savings
are
accounts.
But
But for
2 to 4%, I believe high yields are. I mean, not high, but I mean 2 to 4% you'll take.
For the most part, 5 years ago, those guys did not exist. I mean, they were very rare. You had to look for them. You have to almost coax the bank owner into like, hey, we do have a high yield savings account, right? We have a money market account. We have
money markets,
right? We have this type of account where you can let us use your money and we're going to pay you interest on that money, right? That's really what you do. Because if you have $10,000 in the bank, in the regular savings account, that $10,000 at the end of the year is probably going to give you only a penny or 10 cents, really.
Yeah.
Right? 10 cents is probably too much. I'd say a penny. Whatever 0.01% is, right? But you can turn around and you can say, hey, I'm gonna give it to Walmart or Waste Management.
Right.
Right? And they're growing their company. They're hiring more people. They got robots doing their business now, right? So that means they're going to have more money, and then my money is going to go up in value.
Right.
Right. And that's not even diving into dividends. That's not even diving into any other type of ETFs or any other stocks. But all I can really say is
crypto and stuff like that as well. You know?
Crypto's a whole other
can of worms.
Right?
Yeah.
But you do definitely want to know what you're doing with your money.
Right.
And let them borrow it. But I had to learn that. I had to go through that.
I mean, we still have to. I mean, we also have to learn that for sure.
Yeah.
I started
I think the big thing is like budgeting. I think budgeting and knowing where your money's going is a big thing to do. Because I had the longest time just spending whenever, not really looking at where I'm spending my money at. But now I like finally made a budget. Now I know where every dollar is going. And I think that's a big thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you have to know that things cost, right? Anything you're not using, it costs money. But in turn, you could buy $5 of a different stock. You can buy, some kind of medical equipment company stock.
Yeah.
You can buy hospital stock, and then
a big thing for me, and it's a investing strategy, is like the snowball effect. Is when you like buy in stocks that have dividends, and then those dividends reinvest in the company, and then eventually, once that snowball gets large enough, you'll be making tens to hundreds and eventually thousands if you just keep up with it, and the dividends keep paying off itself. So
for it to be worthwhile, it has to be a lot of money.
Yeah,
right.
Of course,
because you're still talking about 3%, 2% of whatever amount it is, and it's just one period, couple zeros to the left. So 10,000. It's only give you like $10.
Yeah, depending on
10% interest, right? So you gotta have a couple thousands.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's not just the dividend; is that the company goes up in value too, and you get that interest built up on you.
Yeah.
But I had to learn that. My parents did not know that.
Right.
Of course.
Right.
Right.
It's like, how would they?
But if my parents would have known, about investing when I was in my when I was swinging a mall into concrete, breaking concrete, when I was plowing snow and making oodles of money, if they would have said, hey, by the way, here's a Roth account, savings account,
right,
put it in there, right, I'd probably be way better off.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what my dad said. Like one of his biggest regrets was not like paying into 401k for like maybe like I don't know, like probably a decade maybe or something.
Yeah, he worked for that company and then I'm not going to give him my money.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the mentality I had.
We experience inflation as well. So it's like if you're keeping your money, it's losing value, just staying in that kind
present
of
value of money is $1 today is more valuable than $1 tomorrow. So you should be investing in, because there's a potential growth, that the dollar you invested today, say a stock you invest in was $5 today, but tomorrow it's maybe 5.10. So that's already 10 cents more than what it was. So that's like just the mindset of that.
No, it's like your dad's regret, right? I had that same regret. I'm like, oh man, they were giving me a certain percentage for every dollar that I spent. They were matching it.
Yeah.
And I invested how much? Zero. Zero with a capital Z, right? Fucking nothing. Because I thought, I'm not going to give them my money.
Right.
Because then I'm not going to know where it is. And I'm not going to get it back. And it's probably going to be gone. And right, I had no clue. In fact, one of the companies that I work for, they would allow you to buy stock of the company at a discount price.
Yeah.
Oh, you know how many stocks I bought?
Zero.
With the capital Z, baby.
Capital Z.
I bought nothing.
Did you just like wake up one morning, you're like, you're just like,
When I figured out what it was, and I'm like, oh man, like, God, that opportunity. Like, I could have just bought that stock in that company because you get it at discount price.
Right.
Right? You would be allowed to sell it after a specific amount of time. So you would grab it, discount it off. It's already worth more. You don't have to wait for the market to go up. It's already worth more. And then sell it and make money.
Yeah.
Or hold, and hopefully that stock makes even more money, right?
Yeah. You know how much that stock was when I learned about it? It was $170.
That's crazy.
Right now, I'm scared to look, but it's probably over 200.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
290, 280. If it's higher than that, I haven't seen it in a while. But,
You don't want to know.
I really don't want to know because I do feel that weight of
Missed
stupidity.
opportunity. Yeah. That's the thing. You just didn't know.
Right.
That's the thing.
And
but now you know, and now it's
think-
not too late to learn. And that's the cool thing about like investing and learning or being financial literate. It's never too late. But depending, especially if you want to retire, say we were like, all of us were around 55 to 65 and we didn't do anything. We don't have that much time. We have to like go really aggressive in our investing. But now say we mess up, because I'm the same boat. I messed up probably for far too long, but now I'm getting my shit together and realizing I'm going to start investing in myself. And that's what, like, you had your epiphany type of moment. I had that as well. So
you have that. And you can see it. You can see it the moment you go to any store, buy groceries. You will see somebody that's a very high age who has to work.
Right.
Because the government's only giving them $1,200, $1,300.
Yeah.
And that does not cover all the food. It does not cover all the traveling. It does not cover the utilities.
You don't know how long you're going to live either.
And they end up being in their 60s greeting you at the door.
Yeah.
Right? Thank you for coming.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
See
And they have to put up with
whatever,
right?
Yeah.
And then and they're at that age where they don't have a choice. It's either that or they have to sell off everything they got.
Right.
And
if they have anything.
And live by smaller means. Right? And
that's expensive already, you know?
So in that way, I am in awe of my parents because my dad was able to retire when he was 55.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah,
right?
Nice.
Good for him.
He was in the union.
Because probably had the pension and whatnot.
And the union did all the work for him.
Yeah, because the pension. Yep.
Yes.
Makes sense.
And that's why unions help out.
Great.
Is because they educate, they do part of the math for them. And
because the pension, the whole idea of that is the company sets aside money for you without you actually putting money aside. So they're already doing the job. But if you want to invest or put money aside on top of that, that's good. But they have that on the side for you just in case.
Right. And then
which are not a thing.
Once you retire, it's additional to your government check, right?
Social Security.
So once he was 55, he's like, all right, well, I think it's enough to retire. And then by the time things start to get tighter, well, hey, by the way, now I'm of age, I can get my Social Security.
Right.
This is before they raised the Social Security age,
right?
Which was great for him. It was great timing, right? He retired when I got laid off.
Talk about timing.
Right?
Yeah.
Which made it very difficult for me to find work.
Yeah.
Because my foot in the door was always having somebody that knows that's in that business, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But he retired at that age because, again, work was going downhill. Not only did he retire, a lot of the older guys that were working with him took that opportunity and said, you know what, work is really hard.
Mhm.
Our son Dominic is gone. Right? Me. Not
Yeah,
yet.
I was like,
So a lot of them retired and said, all right, we're out of this game.
Mm.
And they were able to take care of that with the pension from the union, right?
Right.
But if it weren't for that,
They'd probably
and my
screwed.
parents
Yeah.
were, I'm in awe at my parents being able to just be retired,
Yeah.
not
Enjoy
have to
life.
work.
Yeah.
And they've been enjoying life since they were in the 50s.
Heck yeah.
I'm
That's really
40.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm 10 years away from that.
I'm
I'm scared
too.
because
Yeah.
I am nowhere near that point,
Mm.
right?
I mean, just thinking of like Social Security, I mean, that's the big thing about it. It's probably be insolvent in our generation and we'll be caught holding the bag because we're paying for everyone else.
Yeah.
But we're not going to have
We're not
anything for
getting
us.
for us.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to bank on the degree,
Yeah.
right?
Putting all your eggs in one basket. You're like,
Right.
If this doesn't work out, I'm screwed.
I
I wanted to
So- What else do I
say
do?
that maybe this will be the route.
Yeah.
But years later, I see that my flawed thinking
mhm.
and thinking, well, maybe not getting stuck doing that was the best thing, right? Because now I see where that job could be right now.
Yeah.
Right.
the industry's
It'd be
Yeah.
a red bike on the driveway.
They're not doing too hot right now.
Right?
Yeah.
Getting
A lot of layoffs and
a lot
things
of
going on with
layouts.
the
You have to move
game industry. Moving
to
around a lot.
moving around. Like you can't make it in this country. Better
Yeah.
work remotely from the Philippines.
Yeah, exactly.
And get paid dollars
I mean-
because you speak English, right? I mean, it's really what it comes down to. You're working
Yeah.
in a different country. You're working in South America, right? Mexico right now has an immigration problem. A lot of people
From
don't
other
know.
countries too.
From Americans.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's like-
I mean, it's the closest country you could go to
Oh.
where you have to live by lesser means,
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
true.
Going
Are-
to a different
Are
language.
Americans flying there? Or
They're going there.
Okay.
And they're there and they're living in Mexico.
Because cheaper.
And because it's cheaper, because they can just pick up the phone and do customer service
Oh, yeah.
from Mexico rather than live here, pay here, right? I'm sure
Mhm.
you've seen stories of older couples that are retired
Oh, yeah,
that
I know.
live in cruises, right? You've seen that
Oh, not
post?
cruises.
I didn't know about
no.
that. I knew they would
I know
retire
that.
there. I didn't know they were going there to work because it's
They go to
maybe
work,
preferable to work in
Because
here.
you don't have to pay as long as you're there
Yeah.
and you're there 6 months and you're not paying taxes to the Mexican government, then you're only doing your business across the border, right?
Oh, wow.
It's easier to live there. Now the Mexico is having laws and starting to say, hey, you know what? You guys need to get out of here.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's the other way around because poverty is getting some people across the border to work there.
Mhm.
And, this is something that came across my mind because I was thinking, I'm like, holy cow. I mean, I can go back to Mexico. So it's not like,
Look
it's
how the
not a-
tables have turned. It's
Right?
just like,
now go
because a
back.
lot of people go to America to seek economic opportunity. Now they're like, never mind.
It's
I'm gonna
different.
go.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard living here, working here, and making it here, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
I see so much of it of immigrants coming to this country and be like, man, how do you guys live
They
here?
think it's the Holy Land, and then
Right. Like
Well, it's the
I mean,
American
yeah.
dream. Is
that's
what
the
sells
American
it.
Yeah,
dream,
yeah.
right? It's the American dream. You guys know the comedian George Carlin?
yeah.
I
George
don't.
I'm
Carlin,
a big fan of
the
George
American
Carlin.
dream. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's like the American
Dream,
dream is
baby.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Like,
He curses, and he tells it, and like,
well, he was calling out politicians back in the '90s when he was doing
Right.
active stand-up comedy, and then like
Right.
everything that he was saying back then,
Mm.
we're seeing it now.
yes,
So
he
it's,
was preaching the truth.
Huh.
He's dead now.
Yeah, he put it in like a humorous tone, but then when you really
but
take
he
it
was
literally,
really serious.
you're just like, we should really be looking out for this stuff because that's what we're seeing
Right.
now.
You can go back and look at some of these old comedy stand-up shows, and you can like look at it as reality now.
Mm.
And one of his biggest lines is that 1%, right? It's a big club,
Yeah, but
and
you ain't
we're
it.
not in it,
Yeah.
right?
I remember he also had a skit where he was talking about how like we can make a lot of money and like fix all of our like debt and stuff if we had something like where you get all the prisoners and then you make them do like kind of like game show like competitions and then like it kind of reminds you of like Squid Game and also like
That's what I was thinking.
with
I
like
was
private
like,
prisons like nowadays and stuff like
What's
that too. So,
old Schwarzenegger, Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, Runner.
I haven't seen it.
No, God,
You're still too young, bro.
But anyway, it's the same mentality of that they grab all the prisoners, have them run to different stages, and if they survive, then they get the money. Which none of them survived, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was
So everyone was able to
entertainment,
kind of like foreshadow or kind of like predict the future in a way.
Yeah, no, for sure. It goes full circle. I definitely advise you guys to learn more about what happens to your money after you cash your check.
Yeah.
If there's something I can live this table with, and I told you. Yeah. How much have you saved?
A little bit.
I see the Z, man. I see that big Z.
Have you seen the George Carlin skit with like he like in the US too, like it's basically like a big shopping mall. Because like he's pretty much criticizing like consumerism and how like everyone's fat. He's like, like Americans will eat anything, even like an asshole on a stick. He's like, all you gotta do is deep fry it and they eat it, and like
you can definitely put on George Carlin and you can listen to a lot of his stuff, and it's real funny stuff. And the thing is that's comedy. Yeah, comedy is true,
and there was no censorship back then either. So like
now
he was just saying what everyone was thinking out loud.
Censorship has gotten so far out of hand right now. It's so unreal. And I mean, I grew up seeing that change because I grew up watching Police Academy. I grew up watching, what's that movie, Airplane? Have you guys haven't seen the movie Airplane?
No.
I've seen like snakes on an airplane.
I've seen Top Gun.
Like Airplane is so politically incorrect, right?
Yeah. I remember like Rush Hour was pretty politically incorrect as well.
But Rush Hour was tame compared to that, right? I mean, you have guys hitting nuns inside the airplane. So just one after the other, watch the hit, slap the mother across the road. Like it was a different world where they could make fun of reality, and reality is comedy, right?
Yeah,
and it applies to everybody. When you can look back and laugh at those moments, then there's that hint of comedy.
Yeah,
I can look back at those moments in my life when I was telling that guy to dig a hole and then cover it up.
You can write a book about this.
He's not laughing about it if you were to know now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Just
it's all the lows
going through
basically, but I think we were at a good side. We covered a lot. I know we probably could go for longer if we wanted to, but maybe in the future, maybe in the future you have Mingo on. It was a very entertaining conversation. You learned about your whole origin story from getting resurrected as like a phoenix, essentially starting from the ashes, coming up again, being reborn anew. If you were to leave the viewers here with anything to say on this episode, what would you say to them?
OMG. I suppose above knowing what you do with your paycheck when you get it, because really it's a representation of your hard work, of what you put into it. That's a one chapter, right? But if I were to leave you with something is you need to take care of yourself, right? Nobody looks at quality of life. Living long is not living. Being healthy is the only way you can enjoy your life.
Thanks.
You can enjoy your life with others. You can enjoy your life longer, right? You've heard of the cardinal sins, right? Taking care of yourself, really. Yeah, we're not going to go through all the sins. We're not going to be here that late, right? I got to drive home. It's kind of late now. But you can take away. You can take away from the cardinal sins and say that the overall is you need to take care of yourself. You need to take care of your health. And be healthy. Exercise. It's huge.
Right.
Exercise. Right. Make it part of your daily routine. And then enjoy life. Really.
For sure. Well, thanks, Mingo, for hopping on. First guest for 2025. I'm joined with the boys as always, Dom and Bryan. I'm Jason for this episode. And audience, take Mingo's words to heart because you got to stay healthy out there.
Yeah, for real.
watch what you do, exercise, and it's early 2025. So maybe that's a resolution for y'all. But until then, take it easy, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Peace.